Hey guys, this is Fight Mike here, back with another video. Today we're just going to be going through the UFC's pound for pound list and reordering them in a correct matter. They currently have the media sites ranking it and then they average it all out, which comes out terribly every week. Um, and I wanted to just have a more defined list that adheres to more what pound for pound actually means. From my research and knowledge of MMA, pound for pound means pound for pound is sort of like a display of your current skill set amongst the current UFC roster and in recent history, and how you have proven your skill set and the results that that has shown. And when I say recent, it's all within the last 5 years. You'll notice in all the slides, they're the last 5 years worth of fights in the UFC. Jumping in to an honourable mention, I almost put him drawing number 15, Max Holloway. Yeah, as I said, he was tied. It was almost tied 15 with the person above, but his lack of pound for pound type wins over the last 5 years is too low. That's why he's not in the top 15. He's had 8 fights in the last 5 years with a 5-3 record, and his only losses are to people who are currently ahead of him in the pound for pound rankings. I would say his only win that's like pound for pound level is Justin Gaethje, and even that's like teetering on not that sort of win. So I just couldn't throw him in the official list of 15, but I wanted to chuck him in as an honourable mention. Number 15, though, we've got Yuri Prohaska. I did find it really hard to fill in this spot, but I did think that Yuri was the most deserving of this one. His title win definitely gets his name in the hat and sort of keeps him in there. Um, and he's also had a slightly better record since 2020 with a 5-2 record, and his only losses being to Alex Pereira. He has really good former pound for pound wins being Glover Teixeira and Jamal Hill, and that's why I picked him over Holloway for the 15th ranked spot. Moving on to number 14, we've got Sugar Sean O'Malley. I know that some people are going to call me a casual for throwing him in, but not Max Holloway. But his only two losses over the last 5 years have been to Marab and Marlon Vera, and Marlon Vera's loss was in 2020. He's beaten the likes of Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling. They're sort of like a pound for pound level win. And his only loss has been to Marab and Vera, as I already said. Throughout the last 5 years, he's been super dominant with 11 fights, 8 wins and 2 losses and 1 no contest. And he's been really active in 2020 with those 11 fights. And I think just having that championship win and defense over the last like even 2 years has to bump him up and keep him in the number 14 spot. Number 13, though, we've got Hamzat Borz Chimaev. This is the only non-champion or former champion that's on the list. I got him on here because he's been undefeated since 2020 with a 7-0 record since then, and he's beaten some pound-for-pound type fighters like a Kamaru Usman or a Robert Whittaker. He's shown dominance over everyone he's fought, and that's why he is higher over both Yuri and Sean. And he has the same amount of pound for pound like wins as them without the losses that they've got. I know that they won the belt, but him having not lost and still having these really good wins has to put him in that number 13 spot. Number 12, though, we've got Bilal Muhammad. He definitely has to be on the list. His wins before getting the championship sort of ride him into this spot. And I know, unlike Sugar Sean, he didn't defend his title, but his wins before getting to the title were like title fight type wins. Like his wins over Gilbert Burns, Sean Brady, Luke Hance, Thompson rank really highly on that sort of list. And he has pound for pound type wins over Leon Edwards and sort of Sean Brady. I know he's not really a pound for pound guy, but he would literally be number 18 at this point. He was undefeated as well at the time that Bilal fought him, and he looked really good. And all of his wins were really dominant wins. You can see there's no split decisions on here, all of them by unanimous decision. And when he beat Leon Edwards, everyone thought Leon was going to be a long reigning champion, which I know didn't end up coming to fruition. But they saw Leon as like the new wave of fighter. They thought that Bilal was going to get smoked by him. So I think it's still a very good win, even if Sean Brady has won against him since then. And he's also had such a high level of activity against high level opponents. Moving on to the number 11 spot, this is going to annoy so many people. One person in specific, though, this will annoy Dana White. We've got John Jones. I know Dana will die on the hill that John is number one, but I literally couldn't put him there. Although his skill set did work in multiple weight classes, he only has 3 wins since 2020, and none of them I would say are against pound for pound level opponents at the time that he fought them. Stipe at one point was definitely pound for pound top 5, but when he fought him, he literally was basically an unranked fighter. Um, His only title wins in heavyweight were not against the best heavyweight of the world at that time as well. So his win against Cyril Gane, there was still a Francis Ngannou floating around then, and in his win against Stipe Miocic, there was a Tom Aspinall floating around. So it's sort of like he's got a disputed title. I would barely call him as someone holding a title at this time, and I'm more so only putting him in here because he was a light heavyweight champion 5 years ago, and he is a disputed champ. He can't be put above some of these guys, and he's really inactive. He's fought 3 times since 2020. Some people have had their entire careers worth of wins since 2020, and most of his wins aren't even on the current roster. His best wins are not on the current roster. Um, and I just can't put him higher if his wins are against the second best at that time, not the best guy. Um, I know it looks really casual putting him this low, but looking at the rest of these guys' records, I find it really difficult to put him any higher. If you asked me this 5 years ago, he's in the number one spot, but the sport moves past John Jones at this point. Moving on, though, we've got the number 10 spot, JDM. I know some of people are going to think that just because I've got the Aussie accent that JDM and Volk were the number one and two, but sadly not. I did have to put him 10th as he is the lowest undisputed title holder. John Jones is not undisputed, he's disputed, but he hasn't defended the belt, so it's really difficult to chuck him higher. And he somewhat had a weaker resume coming into his title fight, with the fight before being Gilbert Burns. And I still do think he has to be above almost all of the non-champions with an 8-0 record in the last 5 years. He only has one pound for pound type win though, being Bilal Muhammad, but that is a really strong win. Um, but with his next fight being Islam Makhachev, if he wins that one, he could be top five easily. He has the capacity to move up very quickly. I just couldn't put him very high just because of his weak resume before reaching the championship. Moving on to the number 9 spot, we've got Alexander Volkanovski, another Aussie. I did again want to put him really high. I saw on Tapology actually that he's number 3. How? I love Volk more than the next person, but he's not number 3 on the pound for pound list. I'm so sorry to say that. We have to take into account that in his last 5 years, in the last 9 fights, he's 6-3. His only losses are still against like the people who are on the top of the pound for pound list, but he still has those 3 losses. Um, in his first stint of champ, he was definitely pound for pound number 1, but if we're talking about the current roster and people who currently make a lot of noise within their division, he doesn't have that many wins over those guys. I know he's got wins over Yair Rodriguez, Max Holloway, and Diego Lopez, but they're not like generational talents at this point yet. Maybe Diego Lopez gets there, but at this point, none of those guys are. His only pound for pound type win is Max Holloway. Even then, he's beat him twice, but it's still not a multitude of pound for pound level wins like you'll see from some of the people further up on this list. Um, yeah, as I said, he would definitely be pound for pound number 1 when he was still riding his active win streak, but there are some guys with some high level win streaks out there. Moving on to number 8, though, we have Alex Pereira. This is the highest I have anyone who's not a current champion. And over the last 3 years, he's put in so much work that he kind of has to be at this point. If you see, the last 4 years is only his UFC. So his recent career, he has been putting in so much work. He's fought 11 times in the last 4 years with a 9-2 record, and he's been in 7 title fights, winning 5 of them. He's a 2 weight division champion as well, and he has 6 pound for pound type level wins, with a win over Strickland, Adesanya, Blachowicz, 2 wins over Prohaska and Jamal Hill, all of them being future or current or former champions at the time he's beaten them. And honestly, if he still had the belt, if he got that one more win over Magomed Ankalaev, I put him number 1. I put him on number 1, no doubt about it. I know that they have other people that were ahead of him, but those wins are nothing to sleep on. He has so many title defenses in recent history, and so many just title wins in recent history. And a lot of those wins were really dominant. You can see any one of these that was a KO apart from the first Izzy fight. He was dominating them the entire fight. The entire fight. I know people pretend that Khalil was about to finish him, but it wasn't really that close. There was probably one round in contention there. But he's been such a dominant guy, therefore he has to be in that number 8 spot. Moving on to number 7, we got the guy who beat him, Magomed Ankalaev. He's also been super active over the last 5 years. Believe it or not, he's fought in the UFC the same amount of times as Pereira. He's fought 11 times with a record of 9 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw, and 1 no contest. And he's also got no losses within that time, and he beat a generational talent with Alex Pereira. That is his only pound for pound type win, but since Pereira is so high on the list, I did originally have him around 10, but I just had to put him higher. Since Pereira is so high on the list, I had to put Ankalaev above him because he literally just beat him. And he has put a lot of work into his undefeated streak, and he's looked dominant over a lot of his opponents. I haven't got him any higher yet because he hasn't been able to prove himself in a title defense yet. But once he beats Pereira again, he will be in the top five, I believe. Moving on, though, to the number 6 spot, we have the undisputed heavyweight champion, Tom Aspinall. I know some people are going to be pretending that this is not legit, that John Jones has to be higher than Tom because he's got an interim championship, not an undisputed. But Tom's been fighting the actual heavyweights, the people that have been ranked and the people making moves in the heavyweight division for the last 5 years. Stipe is not that guy. He's got 1 win in 5 years, so it's not a competition on whether this guy should be above John Jones in the pound for pound. Um, if you look at Aspinall's resume since 2020, which is up on the screen here, and John Jones's resume since 2020, it's literally incomparable. John Jones has 3 fights since then. Aspinall has 9 fights with an 8-1 record in them, finishing every single one of his opponents. Every single one. If you're not looking at domination, if you're talking about domination, that is domination right there. He has not really any pound for pound type wins. But I would say Pavlovich at the time could have been sitting at a 15 rank spot. He wasn't actually, but at the time he was probably deserving of a 15 rank spot. And as I said, his only loss on this list is due to an injury that happened 15 seconds into the fight. So I don't know if I even really take that much into an account. And he's also defended his belt, so he has to be. I would say he has to be higher than Ankalaev, even though Ankalaev has a generational win in Pereira. I think that Aspinall having a defense of his title just means that little bit more. Being able to do it on a consistent level is really impressive, and being able to finish all these guys in the first and second round is so dominant and so impressive, and I think that that's what pound for pound means. Moving on to number 5, though, we've got Alexandre Pantoja. I hate how brutally he's disrespected in the UFC pound for pound conversation. I wouldn't say he's a pound for pound top 3 type guy, but in his last 5 years, he's won 7 out of his last 8, losing only one of them to Askar Askarov. He's won 4 straight title fights in a row, but what holds him back from being a little bit higher on this list is his lack of pound for pound type wins. So people like Brandon Royval or Moreno are teetering on that. Moreno at the time definitely was a pound for pound type win. I don't think that Royval was, but he was really teetering on it. But he has to be ranked higher than these guys with no title defenses, and even above Aspinall, as he is defending a lot higher opponents than Aspinall is. But I just can't throw him higher on this list just because of the level of opponents that some of these guys are facing. Moving on to the number 4, this is probably going to be the most annoying one to people. John Jones, people agree with me. He hasn't fought anyone of value. You can see even just on his list, he's literally got 3 names on there. People understand that. People can get why I've picked him on that. And this is the one that will really annoy people. But I feel super strongly about this. I completely agree with my own opinion, which you would hope. But number 4, we got Ilia Topuria. I know so many people are so pissed right now. They're holding the rose in their hand. They're just praying that I just end the video and say it's a joke, but it's not. I promise I'm not underrating Topuria. You got to hear me out. So what I call pound for pound is what have you done for me in the last 5 years? If it was what have you done for me in the last year, Topuria probably wins that with his last 2 wins. But his wins before that in the last 4 years before that, I don't think that they're as impressive, and all of them have been replicated. You see, Lerone Murphy takes Josh Emmett to a decision and beats him. Bryce Mitchell gets subbed by Gene Silver. Both of those wins have been replicated. Not the Volkanovski and Holloway wins; they haven't yet. But I think that the opponents that he fought before getting to the belt are what's holding him back. People have him in number one. Some people have him in number one, but you can't throw him in one just off 2 wins. I think longevity has to be somewhat in the conversation for this, and these high level opponents have to be one after the other. I think. Um, he's 8-0 since 2020. Um, with obviously 8 fights, he's been somewhat pretty active. But I think that people above him have more accomplishments in the octagon and against more pound for pound level opponents. I know that the level of opponents of Max Holloway and Volk is literally some of the highest you can get, but some of these guys have got almost as good wins, but back to back to back to back to back. So number 3, I got Dricus Duplessis, DDP. He's got one more defense than Taporia, but he has 4 pound for pound level wins in a row. He's got wins over Strickland 2 in a row. He's got one over Adesanya, one over Whitaker as well. And those guys were all pound for pound level guys, especially when he fought them. Um, since 2020, he's been on an absolute roll with a 9-0 record in the UFC with 3 title wins as well. And like Topuria, he's undefeated, but I just value his pound for pound wins, his 4 pound for pound wins over Ilya's 2. Um, Another thing is he's beating these high level guys one after the other, and it just shows the level of domination and consistency to his levels of wins. Moving on though to the number 2 spot, we have Merab Dvalishvili. I know I sound somewhat counterproductive throwing him in front of Dricus and Taporia, but it makes sense in my head. Let me explain it to you. So he's 10-0 since 2020 with 3 pound for pound type wins, and then 2 generational type wins. His last 5 fights, all being by unanimous decision, so you can really see the dominance over his opponents there, being Umar Nurmagomedov, Sean O'Malley, the Triple C Henry Cejudo, Piotr Jan, and then Jose Aldo. His last 5 fights could all be title fights. Like, you look at those names and you could see all 5 of them being title fight opportunities. And honestly, 2 more wins, he's undoubtedly first. I don't care that he doesn't have a ton of title defenses. I think his levels of wins over these generational talents really does have to put him in that number 2 spot. I don't think anyone in the history of the sport, come to me with anyone, has a 5 fight resume quite like this. And that's half of his last 5 years worth of opponents. Like, even 6 fights, throw Marlon Moraes in there, John Dodson in there as well. All of these guys, they're such high level opponents. Like, you can't tell me that these guys aren't amazing. Um, Moving on though to the number 1 spot, we have, I guess everyone probably knows this, we've got Islam Makhachev. It's sort of a no-brainer to put him in here. He's 9-0 since 2020 with 5 title wins, no losses in the last 5 years, obviously, and 3 pound for pound type wins and another 3 generational type wins. Wins that sort of just stand the test of time. Wins against Moicano, Poirier, Volk twice, Oliveira, Hooker, and it's in, if not one of the hardest divisions, the hardest division. It's such a difficult division. He's broken the title defenses record in that division. So I really do think if you're breaking records, you've got to be on the list. Almost all of his wins were by complete domination as well, with Poirier and Volk 1 being the only fights at all on this list with some level of difficulty. And there's just some longevity that the other title holders don't have. None of them have this many title defenses. I think that it will take a few more wins for someone like a JDM to take over. Only 1 or 2 more wins for either or a Ilya or a Merab to take over, or a DDP. All of these guys can take it, but I feel like Islam is just that further into his career with that much more impressive wins. If he can get the welterweight title strap, I don't know if there's anyone that can beat him. It will take a lot of wins to beat him. He's got such dominance over his career. Um, that's it though for my top 15 pound for pound. Let me know what you think in the comments section below, and let me know if there's any of them that you would change, especially if you've got anyone from like the 11 to 15 range, someone that's not holding a title. Anyone that you think could fit in better than my Yuri Prohaska, my who do I even have? Yuri Prohaska, Sean O'Malley. Let me know what you think of those in the comments section below. And like and subscribe as always. I'll catch you next time. Peace.